over the last couple of years, we've seen a very significant move for more devolution in this country, and I think it's a very good thing. I would like for more parts of the country to have more devolution settlements, to have more metro-style mayors. I myself would love to see, rather than there be 4 or 5 different Yorkshire mayors, as there are potentially at this point, just be one singular Yorkshire mayor. I would much prefer that over the different ones, because then at least it stops the mayors and the regions then having to compete against each other. They can all work together. Now, of course, a big reason why the Conservatives are so against devolution is because at the moment, all the big devolution seats, bar probably one, are held by, essentially held by Labour. And they are worried that if Labour are seen in these seats to be governing with efficiency and making positive impacts to these areas, their worry is that then maybe these voters might go, well, actually, hang on. I'm being told that if I vote Labour at a general election, it'll be chaos, but I currently live in, like, the South Yorkshire area, and Dan Jarvis is our Metro City Mayor, and he's from, he's a Labour candidate. He's been doing quite a good and quite well for us during all this time. Why on earth should I be voting for another party? And like I say, they are terrified that that might have a serious consequence on their general election futures. Like I say, so I am very much for devolution. I think it will be good. We have seen this work a lot more effectively in, like, France, where you have, again, a still very central government, but the regions have a lot more power, even down to, like, a mayoral level at a local, like a town level. The mayors have a lot of power to help decide what goes on in the city and in the town and the region. So I think that would be an incredibly good thing, and especially at a time where people are feeling so disconnected from politics. I think having these metro mayors and expanding the system would be even more beneficial. So let's get on with today's article, which covers, well, just that. But before we do jump into that, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And also down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support me that way. And of course, please do remember to wear your mask when you're going outside and maintain social distancing. So let's jump into today's article. So this comes from the Yorkshire Bylines. The title is "Don't Stop the Devolution Revolution," Berman urges. In just a matter of weeks, devolution will once again come to Yorkshire, as the government plans to publicise the details of the deal, which will create the combined authority in North Yorkshire. The deal will split North Yorkshire into 2 unitary authorities and govern it on the model cities like Greater Manchester, with its own elected mayor and cabinet consisting of council leaders and other local officials. So what will devolution mean for North Yorkshire? The testimony of Andy Burnham gave us some insight. Speaking at the Public Administration and Constitutional Affairs Committee last week, Burnham and the North Mayor Tyneside, James Driscoll, pointed out holes in the existing devolution settlement while praising the overall success of decentralisation. Burnham also had very harsh words for the current state of government and agreements for coordinating with Whitehall and local leaders. He said, "There is, across all departments, the Whitehall knows best mentality, and that is what is giving rise to the bidding culture. We don't trust any of you, therefore we'll all make you queue up and put your best argument to us. Whitehall holds all the cards there, and it gives out the power here and there." This is the view of Burnham, and it very lies at the root of the problem. These powers can be used in a very divisive way, as has been seen with pots of money like the Levelling Up Fund, which have been allocated in a very partisan fashion. Moreover, the fact that power still resides in Westminster means that it can be taken away at any minute from local government. Burnham looked back to the Manchester standoff and the warnings which he received from colleagues that his action might risk further devolution. At this point, he made a plea to the government, saying, "Don't stall at this point in time just because an odd mayor has answered back. That might be politically inconvenient, but mayors have a job to do. They speak up for their places, and if mayors and political persuasions are speaking up for their places, then that counters the feelings of alienation that some places have." Both Burnham and Driscoll also pointed out to a lack of integration with the new mayoral model in the broader political culture. Driscoll called for the creation of regional boards with national agencies, while devolving funding for things which have already been best delivered locally. In particular, he took aim at the Kickstart programme, which he confirmed would have been far more successful with more local involvement. The mayors also put forward the ideas for other devolution could achieve in their areas. For both, money was one of the key problems. More borrowing powers needed to be allocated to mayors, along with the possibility of raising new taxes. Burnham pointed out to the idea of a tourist tax, already started in most European cities, as a way to helping raise revenue for his city. For Driscoll, whose office was never and had very few powers than Burnham, more powers in his areas like transport were yet to be devolved. He also pointed to the fact that he had been very much under pressure to represent not just his own authority, but the North East Combined Authority, which did not yet have a mayor. Combining the two, he argued, could help deliver a far more effective strategy across the region. During the meeting, Burnham set out a very clear vision for where devolution has to go next. He envisioned and encompassed the three divisions of government: local, regional, and national. And I think that's a fantastic starting point. And again, something that, Labour went forward with a policy like this could be very successful. So, he said, local government needs to be built up and empowered to do more for itself. Levelling up starts there. We need a new settlement for local government, and obviously that includes social care. The second is a combined authorities everywhere that have far more devolved long-term control of public spending that already takes place in our region. Burnham brought up the Department for Work and Pensions budget as an example of what spending could be influenced by more local leaders. He pointed out that this money often went directly to very neglectful landlords without any effort to improve housing conditions. The third level was national. During the meeting, he raised the proposition, and this is where I think this could be good, and I think this is something that we should really look for, because I've said before, we need to reform the House of Lords. So, was looking for the proposition of a reformed House of Lords, which represented the regions. For this, he suggested a Lords elected by MPs using regional lists, although I don't agree with that. But I do agree House of Lords reform. So Burnham's vision was clearly shaped by both his own time as Health Secretary under Gordon Brown and as Mayor of Greater Manchester. He also criticised the whipping system in Westminster, which, quote, leaves politics looking quite remote from people. He pointed to the Hillsborough disaster, where the system in which we all worked simply couldn't hear the entire English city crying injustice. When challenged on whether he would actually act differently if he returned to Westminster politics, he said this: if I were to ever return to national politics, it would only be to challenge fundamental constitutional reform of England to make it work fairly and equally for all the constituent regions of England. So, essentially, if he was returned to national politics, he would push for more devolution. So both Burnham and Driscoll had very warm words for the potential of devolution and to improve governance overall. Driscoll provided over a cabinet with 2 Conservative members and 4 Labour ones. He said, we sat down and we agreed to take point scoring out of the relationship. If I get re-elected and I do it for the people in the Tory areas, so will they. There is also an inbuilt incentive for finding a win-win situation. Not only does devolved government help improve relationship between parties, but it also helps achieve good outcomes. Bernard pointed to siloed thinking within the Whitehall departments and the ability of a mayor to coordinate these and achieve genuine benefits for people on the ground. Ultimately, as Burnham claimed, more devolution could lead could lead in course to a more equal country with stronger regional identities and political engagement. He pointed to the higher turnout rates in areas with mayors during local elections and the embryotic formation of local identities in areas like the Tees Valley and West Midlands. All of this now awaits for us to receive the details of what North Yorkshire's devolution deal will actually look like. Implicit through Burnham's testimony is the concern that Westminster was no longer committed to giving genuine power back to local governments. Neither West Yorkshire's deal looks more like Burnham's sweeping powers in Greater Manchester or Driscoll's far more limited statement in the North East. It will give us some very clues as to whether what the King in the North suspicions actually hold water. So, I am very much, as you said, for more devolution. I think this is going to be a good thing. I think you see how it's worked out in these areas. It's worked out pretty well. Greater Manchester obviously taking, or Manchester in this case, taking control of its transport, and the way that they plan to roll out and how they change that transport, I think will be very good. Already in the northeast of Yorkshire, we're already seeing moves to do that as well, which again, I think will be good, putting public transport back into local hands. I think that will work out quite well. But the other thing is, again, House of Lords reform. I think I am very much of the opinion there. The House of Lords does need to be reformed. But having a House of Lords elected by MPs, no. No, absolutely no. What we need to do is, I've said this before, House of Lords needs to be elected by proportional representation. That would be the best scenario to reform the House of Lords. And again, I think that would be the best way to do it. Have it elected by the people. Have it, every whatever, like off cycle. So like, we sort of have a big election every sort of 2 years, like we're at the House of Lords, then we have another election, then we have like a general election, and then it's the House of Lords election after that. Work out like that, sort of like they have in America, in their sort of like election cycles. But I do not think it would be a good idea, as Burnham said, to have Lords elected by MPs. No. That would be very bad. However, a regional style House of Lords, where you went, okay, this is the Yorkshire region, this is how many MPs there are to fill from this region. So, I don't know, let's say during this result, that means, 4 to Labour, 3 to the Tories, 2 to Lib Dems, 1 to Greens. But I don't know, something like that maybe. And then that's all the Yorkshire ones. And then again, you split the areas up, and then that's how the House of Lords gets filled. That, I think, would be a very, very good way to do it. Because again, you would have quite a progressive system. And in situations like we have now, the House of Lords would actually be able to stand up and actually challenge Boris Johnson's overwhelming mandate that he has, because even with, if you took the, again, proportional representation, the Tories wouldn't potentially be in power. So there is a very, positive situation, as we said, always for reforming the House of Lords. But again, something we're going to have to see and just wait and see what happens. But as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link as well, where you can, buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all the people who do support the channel in those ways. And of course, thank you everyone for watching. And please do remember to wear a mask and keep social distancing while you're out there and stay safe. So, thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time.